Welcome to another webinar presented by the HISD Family and Community Engagement Department. Today we will be discussing officer transitions for parent organizations. I am your presenter, Elizabeth Angel, Program Manager in the Family and Community Engagement Department. Our department is dedicated to building intentional partnerships to advance student achievement by promoting a welcoming environment, honoring families, and linking activities to learning. You have probably seen our team at your campus supporting parents through workshops, providing resources to parent organizations, and connecting your school's engagement team to resources and community support. We are also listening to your feedback through pulse checks, listening sessions, and the walkthroughs that we conduct at each of our campuses. We are utilizing your feedback to best meet our students' and families' needs. As the school year comes to an end, your term as an officer may be ending soon as well. Today, we will be discussing how you can best support your parent organization by having a plan to train and effectively transition your incoming officers. We will be talking about the importance of officer transitions, sharing 5 tips for smooth officer transitions, and how your faith specialist can support you through this process. Before we share the 5 tips, we want to talk about the importance of officer transition planning. Officer transitions are the steps a board or officer takes to train and pass the baton to a new board or officer. Having a plan for effective officer transitions will ensure a smooth start for the new officers, and you will be setting them up for success. They will not have to spend additional time looking for important documents, trying to find new vendors, or waiting to see which fundraiser brings in the most funds. Having a transition plan will be contributing to the sustainability of your organization since incoming officers will not have to start from scratch. Now that we have talked about the importance of having a plan for officer transitions, let's talk about 5 things to do for a smooth transition. Just a quick disclaimer, the FACE department does not provide legal or accounting advice. We simply want to share best practices. The FACE department should not be a replacement for accountants or attorneys, and we advise that you seek professional assistance should you have a need. Tip number 1 is to be a part of elections. Even if your term is coming to an end, you can still be involved with the elections process. You can start off by reviewing the bylaws for the election guidelines to see when elections should be held, to find out who can run for a position, and also to see who can vote during elections. Once you have the timing of elections based on the bylaws, make sure you begin planning 1 to 2 months before the time that is stated in the bylaws to ensure that you have enough time to prepare everything to have a successful election. You can also be involved by recruiting potential officers. If you have been serving in your position for a year, 2 years, or even longer, you have probably identified a few parents who you think would be a good fit for one of the positions opening up in the parent organization. You can speak to these individuals to see if they would be interested in running for that position that is opening up. If your parent organization has a nominating committee, you can ensure that they are actively seeking individuals to fill those positions that will be opening up. You can also support the planning of elections, ensuring that your campus's administration team is aware of the timeline for elections, that you are sending out notices to parents and members so they are aware when elections will be held, making sure that the ballots are ready for the day of elections, and making sure you have a place and all of the items that you will need to have a successful election. Tip number 2 is to pass on helpful information. Now, this step will require for you to think back of when you first started in your current position. Whether you came in with some experience of working at another parent organization, or maybe you had someone there guiding you to ensure that you had an understanding of what your role was, or maybe you had to start from scratch. Maybe you didn't have any information. So think back of that and think of what you wish you knew before starting your position and share that with the incoming officer. Schedule a meeting where you're able to share that feedback along with other feedback that you have learned the knowledge that you have gained, the 1 to 3 years that you have served in the parent organization. You could share feedback on vendors, marketing ideas, fundraisers, which was a successful fundraiser, which one was not. What communication tool works best for your parents, because every campus is different. Share a calendar of events, ideas for next year. You may have had a long list of things that you wanted to accomplish, and if you were not able to accomplish them all, share those ideas with the incoming officers, your struggles and accomplishments, and also taking time to review the bylaws. Because if those bylaws were written 4 or 5 years ago, they may not necessarily be as effective as how the parent organization is currently running. And you can make recommendation for the new officers to make those amendments if they see fit. Tip number 3 is to update and share a procedure book. PTO today states that having a procedure book is an ideal way to transfer organizational knowledge from one leader to another. It serves as the key reference book a new officer can turn to whenever questions come up about their new role. The procedure book can be in form of a binder, it can be electronic files in a USB drive, or it could be electronic files saved in a cloud server that you utilize. It should include your financial documents, such as bank statements, bank reconciliation reports, receipts, your 990s, your governing documents, such as your bylaws, meeting minutes and agendas, your EIN form, or your 501c3 determination letter if your parent organization has one. It should also include your passwords for any email accounts that the parent organization has created, website accounts, or even your spirit store. If your parent organization has other websites, membership websites, anything that you have a password for, to pass that along, because if not, the new officers will have to start from scratch and trying out new systems. Tip number 4 is to update signers on the bank account. And it's very important that you do this as soon as your term ends, especially if your term ends right before summer. Because if not, you may risk losing contact with one of the signers, and then it will be even harder for the new officers to be added on to the bank, because most banks require for both the former signers and the new signers to be present when doing that change. So doing that as soon as your term ends will avoid the new officers having to take additional steps. It will also allow enough time for the new signers to receive any updated cards or any documentation that they may need to be able to make withdrawals or deposit. You may have to call your bank, because every bank has different requirements, but most banks require the meeting minutes where the new board was elected, a form of identification, and social security card for the new signers being added to the account. Now, tip number 5 is to submit a new 8822B IRS form. If your parent organization has an EIN, then when your parent organization applied for the EIN with the IRS, they listed a responsible party. Now, if your parent organization listed your treasurer or your president as the responsible party, then they will have to be changed, because the IRS defines a responsible party as the person who has a level of control over funds or assets in that organization. And the responsible party will be who the IRS calls if there are any questions or issues with the organization. So it is important that this is reported within the 60 days of the change. And this can be changed every year. And there's also no cost involved for you to submit an 8822B form to either update the responsible party or the address. The FACE department is here to support you through the process of transitioning to a new board. Now, we have shared those 5 tips, and maybe you have other forms that you would like us to support you in. Meet with your FACE specialist for individualized support in any of these steps that you may need assistance in. We can also provide support for officer training. Maybe you have a new set of board and they all need additional support, or maybe you just have one officer that needs a little bit of extra support and the faith specialist is able to provide that. Election support as well, legalization process, and also we can just share best practices with your parent organization if that is something that interests you. The QR code that we have here, if you scan that, you will be able to find the contact information for your faith specialist. Now, if you are a brand new officer just elected into office, then and your previous board did not have a transition plan and you're having to start from scratch, the faith specialist can assist you with finding the information for these 5 steps that we discussed today because we want to ensure that you are off to a good start. So we've just covered 5 tips for smooth officer transitions. And now we would like to know, what do you have to contribute to this conversation? We are interested to hear about what steps you take to train your new officers. So please scan the QR code on the left to share your process. And to get more ideas, the code on the right will take you to PTO Today's website, where you will find an officer transition kit that will help your group continue building on its successes as new officers take over. If you're watching this as your term comes to an end or you are just starting out, thank you for all you do to support our campuses. Our students' experiences would not be the same without your efforts and contributions. Be sure to stay tuned for our next pep talk, where you will have the opportunity to hear from seasoned parent organization officers, share how they transition and support incoming officers. As always, remember, you've got this.